Ghouls. Mysterious and deadly creatures that lurk the streets of Tokyo for human flesh to quell their insatiable appetites. Looking like humans themselves, they isolate their victims and lure them into a false sense of security before revealing their true selves and then devouring them. Our protagonist, Kaneki, just like any good-natured cinnamon roll of a character, was attracted to the beautiful girl wearing glasses, long dark hair, and having the same interest in books as he had. Lots of people could probably point this out as a trap, but he was an innocent boy. Who could blame the nervous young man for letting her lure him into the darkness? Maybe she was the one. Well, she was, as in the one that attacks him with weird tentacle-like savagery, but then gets him flattened by a bunch of fallen pipes and debris, only for Kaneki to find himself waking up in a hospital where some whacked-out doctor performs bizarre experimentations, replacing one of his organs with that of a ghoul's, essentially turning him into a ghoul himself, and now he desires the meat of human beings that he can't even so much as eat a potato without getting sick because all he desires is human flesh, which plunges him into a world of darkness and pain the likes of which he could never imagine before. And let's face it, fellas. We've all met a girl like that. Now, I have heard for Tokyo Ghoul, the correct experience to have would be to read the manga, which is usually the case, but for some reason people really dislike the anime for this one, and to be clear, I have not watched the anime at all, and I probably won't watch it. Maybe I will after this. You guys can tell me if it's even worth it. But as for the manga, this manga definitely satisfied my horror addiction and bloodlust for the past couple of weeks. I love monster stuff, I love horror stuff, creatures, different creature designs and how they move and how they attack and the lore of it all. Lots of terrifying imagery and the life or death moments with characters being pushed to their absolute edge. Now, especially with its main character. I think the best thing I can say about Tokyo Ghoul is its main character, Kaneki. His progress and development throughout the story was a lot of fun to read, and his progress follows the tropes of a lot of shonen, but it's his personality and his responses to those changes that makes him stand out from a lot of other characters, along with the visual representation of his various stages, because Kaneki has several different looks to him depending on where the manga is currently. As I said earlier, I'm just going to call his first stage his cinnamon roll stage because he just is. Human Kaneki, and when he first becomes part ghoul, is truly a gentle soul just trying to find something valuable within his life and the struggle that it takes him to. Dealing with the themes of belonging and trying to be true to your younger self, but then you're forced with some horrific realities of the world and of your own life's history. The world itself having the existence of ghouls, for instance. The ghouls kind of remind me a lot of vampires, but they're not innately evil, they're just other living creatures that happen to eat humans. And so there's a subtle balance as the story gets moving where they explain and humanize the ghouls while also at the same time show the other side of the equation where a legitimate wing of the police force called Doves are tasked with investigating and taking out the ghouls. At first, one of the main Doves of the series focuses on Mado, and I love this dude. He was just batshit crazy enough to make any scene with him feel a high bit of tension, but he was also incredibly intelligent and skilled and forward thinking. I loved his design. He totally reminded me of a Hellsing character, which I really appreciated, but the real focus is on his partner, Amon, who I would probably say, other than Kaneki, probably goes through the most amount of development in the story. And I like how they don't necessarily make the ghouls or the Doves feel like a full-on antagonist. It kind of varies between the two depending on the point in the story, but it shows the nuance of the situation and how both sides are taking strides to find the best ways to survive. Sometimes in peaceful ways, and other times it falls into chaos. But it really works to help make the world feel more human, for lack of a better word, that everyone has their own reasons for doing what they do, and very few characters are presented as straight up evil. Or there are some, but at the least it explains it from each perspective so that you can kind of see that if you were a human in this world, or if you were a ghoul, how the struggle for survival can make you look like a hero to some or a devil to others. So for Kaneki himself, he begins working at this coffee shop run by ghouls hiding themselves in plain sight basically, and the visuals of him begin to change, his one eye unmistakably not human, so he wears an eye patch to cover it. Later on, he commissions a mask, and yeah, all ghouls wear masks because it's the best way to not be identified by the investigators in real life during the night. And Kaneki's mask is definitely something destined to be iconic. Kinda sorta looks like something you would wear during a BDSM party. Not that I would know about that, but anyway, I think that it does have some significance to it with its design and the way it looks, like something that you would wear to be tortured, because that is kind of like his character, constantly tortured on the outside, but still trying to retain his pure self, from blocking out childhood abuse, to betrayal by others, to being forced into being a ghoul, to being forced to fight over and over again, and resisting his true darker urges that are within. All of it kind of showing a guy that, despite all he tries to do, is still pushed into pain at every turn. Not the least of which was his most pivotal change as a character with the torture sequence. Count back from 7. Count back from 7. Dear God, that will be in my head for quite a while now. There is a sequence in the manga where Kaneki is captured and forced to endure multiple days of torture by a ghoul named Jason. Yeah, motherfucking Jason, wearing a hockey mask and all. I don't know if that's some copyright infringement or what, but Jason is in this manga. Also, it kind of reminds me of the legend of Prometheus. He was trying to bring humanity the fire of the gods, and as punishment, he was sent to have his insides eaten out by birds until he died. And then he would revive and have it happen over again and again and again. Kaneki here also continues to regenerate and doesn't die. Also, similarly, he is someone that is trying to help others and then is punished for it, offering himself up the slow, brutal torture as he was put in a human-like state, but would still heal and regenerate, making him feel the pain day in and day out, eventually transitioning him into fully embracing himself as a ghoul, fueling himself on his own flesh, and as symbolism for his change into ruthlessness, his hair becomes a pure white, which is also cool and ironic because white is usually a representation of purity, and it's when Kaneki becomes his most vicious. I also got to give it up for the character of Banjo. I don't know how to pronounce a lot of these names, but I've been calling him Banjo. That Kaneki meets around the same time, right before he gets tortured. That guy was a bro to the end, and I enjoy all of his scenes. Anyway, moving forward, the second half of this manga gets incredibly dense with lore and exposition, and look, I'm a Hunter x Hunter fan, okay? I'm fine with lots of dialogue. However, in Tokyo Ghoul, I didn't find myself as engaged with it as when it began. So when big, heavy exposition scenes went on for several chapters, it began to be a little much for me. But before I get to any negatives, the other thing I have to praise is the artwork. Now, for a good portion of its run, the art looks fine, it's good, nothing bad to say, but not like top 10 or anything. But then there will just be random double page spread moments where Ishida just goes hard as all hell out of nowhere, and the artwork always seemed to impress me. Now, there's a large number of side characters, plenty I liked, like Hyde, Shu, Toka was okay, I guess. Oh, and Suzuya. Dear God, his backstory is so fucked up. Well, I mean, to be honest, a lot of characters' backstories are traumatizing and weird, but let's just say his got all my sympathy, and man, just man. But I do have a few negatives with the series, and while reading this, pretty early on, I realized that this would probably be something that I like, but not love, and that remained true throughout my reading of the manga. I think I figured it out along the way, and that is, for me, Tokyo Ghoul has some extremely high peak moments, like some great scenes, great moments, some scenes and Kaneki's development and particular reveals and revelation, really high peaks. But the general consistency throughout its run was very up and down for me. Sometimes there would be 10 chapters in a row that were just okay. Some things pretty standard, some fight scenes a little difficult to follow. Nothing I hated by any means, but it didn't retain a high level of investment from me throughout the entire run. I also found the ending to be very rushed and abrupt. The stuff with Kaneki and Amon I really loved. I loved Kaneki reflecting on his childhood and he comes full circle while fighting, Amon going all out, but the final chapter was kind of like, oh, I guess it's over. And yeah, okay, I know there is a second manga called Tokyo Ghoul Re. I have not gotten there yet. I'll probably read it, but it's kind of a bummer I can't get the whole story in, well, one story. Now, I have a lot that I really like about this series, but I also can't help but feel that it didn't quite hit me on the same level as it has for so many others. It's one of those series where I would probably give it like a 7 out of 10, and I feel like everyone is going to think I'm crazy for that. Not saying it's a 10 out of 10, but 7 is good, man. So I think 7 is pretty good. Because people love this series, man. This has been recommended to me since I started reviewing manga on this channel, so I don't want to let anybody down with my review, but I gotta be honest, I thought it was really good, just not the best. But I definitely think that if Kaneki had not been such a compelling character, I probably would have liked it less. But he truly is a fire MC, and I think that he really elevated the series with him as a protagonist. I really like Amon too. I like how they represent two sides of the same coin, and like I said, the peaks of this series are peak. But for ongoing consistency, I think it's a little bit too up and down at times. The main question now is, though, do I watch the anime? Or will it just piss me off now that I know the story of the manga? Like, how bad is it really? Please let me know. Also, let me know what you think about Tokyo Ghoul in general. If you've read the manga, let me know your thoughts and ideas and opinions about it down below. Also, real quick before you go, I do want to shout out a Patreon supporter of mine, Adam Jinrakai, and his YouTube channel of the same name. It will be linked down below in the description, and he specializes in deep dive analysis of anime and manga, particularly of Berserk and One Piece. One of his latest videos claimed to have figured out the mystery of D. I have not read One Piece myself, but I hear that that's a pretty big deal. So if you're following One Piece, go check it out and tell him whether or not he's a genius or he's totally off base. But more importantly, subscribe to him and in the comments say, Ryan sent ya. Anyways, guys, like this video if you enjoyed the review, and to help it in the algorithm, comments will help as well. Also, check the links in the description for my Patreon, channel memberships, merch store, and all the various social media links where you can follow me. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.